Chapter 1. Born beneath the ash, open the wound. Let the echo breathe. Let the shadow speak its birth. Long before the empire, before clones marched and stars burned red with fire, there was a silence, a stillness, a scar forming in the skin of the galaxy. And into that scar a child was poured. Not born, no, not birthed by womb or union, but forged, shaped, a will without a will behind it, a whisper of the Force made flesh. He came beneath the ash, a world scorched by suns, Tatooine, sand not of life, but of memory, dry, cracked, moaning beneath every footstep. There, in a slave hovel, reeking of metal and heat, the wound opened, and the boy was there. No father, no lineage, no claim, only Shmi, mother-shaped and tired, who spoke of dreams of light in her womb, of voices in her sleep, of a presence too vast for breath. There was no father, she said. The Jedi recorded, but they did not understand, for what grows without seed must answer to something, and the Force, hungry thing that it is, never gives. Without purpose, he was called Anakin, meaningless name, shaped by tongues not meant for myth, a slave's name, a Hutt's property, numbered, marked, owned. But already the Force circled him like vultures above carrion. Already he moved faster, thought deeper, saw farther. He dreamed of stars, ships, freedom, not yet for others, only for himself. A child's wish, yes, but in that wish lay fire, and the Force did not sleep in him. It stirred, it waited, it watched. The Hutts did not notice. They fed him scraps, made him dance for Padris's laugh in circuits of death. But every race he won, the galaxy tilted slightly. Unseen, unfelt, a thread was pulling tight. Then came the ones in robes, from the sky, Qui-Gon Jinn, a Jedi, but one who listened where others mocked. He saw the boy and trembled. Midichlorians surged like a storm in his blood, uncountable, unknowable, an anomaly, a curse, a gift. He is the chosen one, the Jedi whispered. He will bring balance to the Force. But prophecy is not truth. Prophecy is hunger with a name. And the Force is not light. It is not dark. It is not kind. It is Dot. And so the boy was tested. The council saw fear, but also power, unrefined. Volcanic, they debated, as they always did. The child is too old, too angry, too dangerous. But Qui-Gon pressed on. He spoke of destiny, of fate, of a will beyond their grasp. He was conceived by the midichlorians themselves, a virgins in the Force. And in secret, the Sith smiled, for what the Jedi claimed as light, the dark had already touched. The child left Tatooine, but the sand never left him. It clung to his soul, coarse and unforgiving. He did not weep for his chains. He did not long for his Hutt masters, but for his mother, for the only warmth he had ever known. They took him from her and called it salvation. But the Force does not save, it binds, it breaks, it remakes. Even then, whispers stirred in Sith tombs. Ancient lords, long dead, long mad, felt the boy like fire in their bones. A nexus of power not seen in generations. Not since Revan, not since Nihilus, not since Bane they watched from death. Waited Dot for every chosen one is a choice made by the galaxy. But choice is illusion wrapped in hope. Know this, the child was not a savior, not a light to burn the dark. He was a fulcrum, a blade made flesh, Too much power for such a small body, too many eyes upon him, and none of them saw him clearly. Smiled when they gave him a lightsaber. He laughed when he saw Coruscant's towers. But inside, the desert never left, and the heat kept rising. There are those who say he was born to destroy the Sith, others that he was their final triumph. But this is what I know. I saw the thread of his soul, and it was frayed from the start. He loved too deeply, too fast. He feared too often, too much he dreamed, and his dreams were made of fire. In the void between stars, before the war, before the fall, before the fire and the black mask, there was a boy, and he looked at the galaxy not with awe, but with hunger, not for food, not for gold, but for more. More power, more control, more time, more than the Force would give. Beware the one who dreams of more, for he dreams of ruin. Chapter 2. The false dawn of light, and the child was taken into the citadel of light, and thus began the slow eclipse. The towers of Coruscant pierced the heavens, like blades that had forgotten how to kill. Within one such spire, polished, golden, cold, the Jedi kept their silence, not peace, not wisdom, but silence. The child entered through high doors, not made for those born in sand. He looked up, and the light looked down. They named him Anakin, but they called him Chosen, and in naming they began to unravel him. The council sat high, so high they could no longer see the floor beneath their feet. They peered into him with eyes aged and dimmed by doctrine. They smelled fear, they saw attachment, they knew he was dangerous, and yet the whispers of prophecy were louder than their doubt. A virgin in the Force, born of no father, a child of raw, unshaped power, too bright to ignore, too dark to dismiss. So they compromised. As Jedi do, Qui-Gon fell. Obi-Wan rose. The boy was accepted, not as one of them, but as one they would mold. A weapon with a leash made of tradition. Anakin studied, Anakin obeyed, but not like the others. He learned not with patience, but with need. His saber struck true too quickly. His mind reached too far, too soon. The masters whispered behind temple doors. The Padawans kept their distance. He was always too much to. Night, the boy dreamed. Not of stars, not of joy, but of burning. Worlds on fire. Voices crying out, a scream that became a hum, that became a saber, that became his hand. He told no one, for the Jedi did not listen to dreams. They only feared them. Obi-Wan taught him form, taught him duty, taught him control, but not peace, not clarity. And Anakin, he listened. He nodded, but inside he churned. When they spoke of detachment, he remembered his mother, her smile in the dust, her hands, rough but kind, her goodbye. The temple gave him robes, but not warmth, knowledge, but not understanding. The boy sat among cold pillars and wondered why this light felt so hollow, and the Force trembled in him. Yoda watched, Mace Windu frowned. Obi-Wan believed, the council debated. No one saw, no one heard the light, so certain of itself, could not feel the growing shadow coiled not in the galaxy, but in their own walls. He passed trials, faster than others. He fought in simulations, won again. The masters clapped in their muted, disapproving way. They praised his gifts, warned of his anger, advised patience, but they never asked why his heart beat like a storm, locked in a cage. Anakin stood on the temple's highest balcony. Coruscant shimmered below, like a dream too perfect to touch. He looked up. The stars did not speak, but the Force did it. Whispered of paths hidden, power buried, truths denied, and always a voice behind a voice, low, familiar, promising you are not like them. They fear you, but I see what you could become. He told no one of the voice, for he had begun to listen. The Jedi called him chosen. They wrapped him in prophecy like a burial shroud. They said he would bring balance, but never said what that meant, or how, or when. And Anakin, he began to wonder if balance was peace, or power, if the Jedi were guardians, or prisoners of their own past. And so the temple cracked, not in stone, but in certainty. He questioned, he doubted, he wanted, not like a Jedi, but like a flame. They did not see it, they did not want to. They saw a shining sun, but never noticed its core was hollow, and in that hollow, the dark had already planted its seed. Obi-Wan told him, "You will become a great Jedi." And the boy smiled, but he did not want greatness. He wanted freedom. From chains he still felt, in dreams, from masters who watched, but never understood, from a destiny chosen for him, not by him, and thus the vine of fate coiled, not around his throat, but around the temple's root. For what is more dangerous than a child given purpose, before he knows his own name? Chapter 3. The voice that burns. He became what they needed. Before they knew what they lost, there was war. Oh, there was war. It came not like a scream, but like a breath drawn deep, a galaxy sighing before it bleeds. The clone. Wars began not with fanfare, but with fracture. Worlds turned upon worlds. Brothers became weapons. Peace was drowned beneath the bootprints of marching armor. And into this chaos, they loosed the boy. He was no longer just Anakin. Now he was General Skywalker, Knight of the Republic, hero of the Clone Wars. But heroism is a mask one wears until it melts. The Jedi, long silent in their temples, became commanders, wielders of war, and they praised him. He leads with fire. His presence turns tides. He saves systems. Yes, but he did not save because he sought peace. He saved because it let him unleash. He moved through war like a blade through silk, fearless, beautiful, terrible. Each battle etched itself into him. Each victory whispered more. He did not ask why peace had failed. He only asked where the enemy hid next. And the Force, drawn to his hunger, whispered back. But there was another voice, not Obi-Wan's, not the Council's, not even his own. It came in fire, in dream, in death. When he struck down a separatist tank, it laughed in his ears. When he buried his saber in a Sith assassin, the voice sighed, yes. When he stood among fallen droids and brothers alike, it whispered from behind the veil of war, good. Good, this voice did not teach. It unveiled, it told him the Jedi were blind, that their peace was a lie kept on cold tongues, that they used him, feared him, and would cast him aside the moment he broke the shape they had carved for him. And part of him believed it, because when he came to them, soaked in blood and ash, they offered no comfort, only silence, only reminders of the code, and the code did not heal. It only bound. Padme waited in the shadows of war, a secret not even the Council could see. Her touch was the only quiet in the maelstrom, but even her voice could not drown the other, the voice behind all others, the voice that burned. It came clearer with every death, with every order, obeyed. With every scream he did not mourn, and it began to name him, not Anakin, not chosen one, but something older, something forgotten, something ... inevitable. Power is wasted on the cautious. They have no right to command you. Only through control can you keep what you love. He won battles the Jedi feared to fight. He broke sieges, crushed outposts, toppled warlords. The Senate cheered. The clones followed without question. The Jedi, they grew quiet, for he terrified them. Even Obi-Wan, who called him brother, sometimes watched him like a man watches a growing storm. He began to dream not only of his mother, but of Padme, broken, dying, burning, always burning. The voice did not comfort, it fed. You can stop it, not as you are, but as you must become. The Jedi could not hear the voice. They wrapped him in titles. They wrapped him in missions, but none of them saw the fire behind his eyes, because they believed destiny was obedience. But he had begun to believe. Destiny was power. He stood once on the shattered bridge of a ruined cruiser, bodies below, ash in the air, and he heard the voice not in his mind, but in his bones. It asked no questions. It gave no commands. It only called, and he answered. The war did not forge him. It revealed him. It peeled back the Jedi lies. It exposed the hollow songs of peace. It brought forth the one truth, that control, not hope, was the only way to stop the dying. The Republic praised him. The Jedi tolerated him. Padme loved him. But the voice understood him. He stopped fighting for peace. He stopped fighting for the order. He stopped even for victory. It is not victory, he learns, to crave, but control. Control of the war, control of his fate, control of death itself. And the voice, ever watching, ever near, waits, for soon it will have a name, and so shall he. Chapter 4. A bond unseen by the order in the shadow of war. The heart makes its heresies. There is a bond the Jedi will not name, not because it is forbidden, but because they fear to see it. It grew in silence, in stolen hours and hidden rooms, in whispered touches and glances that carried the weight of galaxies. Padme, senator, voice of peace, torchbearer for the dying flame of the Republic, and Anakin, warrior, flame without anchor, a blade that began to burn itself. Their love was not light, nor was it shadow. It was something else, not sacred, not profane, but desperate. He did not love her as a Jedi might, in quiet acceptance. He loved her as one drowning loves air, not for what she was, but for the belief that she could never be taken. And in this belief, the first fracture of fate deepened. They wed in silence. No witnesses, no stars, only vows made to a galaxy too loud to notice. And beneath that fragile joy lay the roots of rot, for all things hidden fester, and all secrets twist the soul. The Jedi sensed it. They saw his absence, his flickering serenity, the way his gaze lingered when she entered the room, the way his rage flared brighter when her life was threatened. They saw, but they said nothing. Why? Because they feared what he might become if they took her away. Obi-Wan came closest. He asked once, "Is there something you must tell me?" And Anakin, once a slave, now a secret keeper, lied, as he had learned from the order itself, truth, bent in the name of peace. But peace was not what he sought. He dreamed now of Padme's face, growing pale, growing still, growing silent. The dream came again and again. A bed drenched in blood, a cry unanswered, her breath stilled as his hands trembled. He woke in sweat. In terror, he reached for her, held her, and whispered, "I will not lose you." The voice answered, not as scream, but as promise, "You can. Stop it. I have seen beyond death. I have touched what the Jedi fear. With power, you can save her." It did not say how, only that it could be done. And Anakin listened. Padme saw the storm behind his smile, the tremor in his hand, the way his eyes wandered to stars she could not follow. She held him, believed in him, but belief does not silence destiny. It only slows the fall. He began to question the code aloud. Why must attachment be death? Why must love be fear? Why must peace demand the killing of joy? The Jedi offered riddles, parables, patience, but patience is a poor balm for a man who sees death in his sleep, and the Order, so wise in its silence, so proud in its chains, let him drift, not from the path, from themselves. The war pressed on. The days blurred. He became a face to the Republic, a name etched into legend. But in the shadows, he watched Padme's belly swell, watched life bloom even as death whispered around every corner. He feared not for himself, he feared for them. He begged the Force for answers, and it was silent. He searched the archives, found only dust, tales of Sith alchemy, of lost immortals, of twisted rituals, but no hope, no way, until the voice returned, not in dream but in form, a figure cloaked in velvet. Lies. A chancellor who smiled like a friend but watched like a predator. "I know your pain, Anakin. I once loved too. There are paths the Jedi would forbid, paths they fear because they work." The words were honey drenched in poison, and Anakin so weary, so hungry for control. Let them take root. Still he told Padme nothing. Still he carried the secret. Still he drowned in love so deep, it no longer buoyed him. It began to pull him under. The Jedi summoned him more and more. Their questions sharpened. Their eyes grew colder. And still they did not act, because, in truth, they did not know whether to save him or to fear him in the bowels of the temple. He sat in meditation, but his thoughts were not silent. They screamed. Visions of her dying, visions of his failure, visions of a cradle turned into a coffin, and always the voice, "What will you do when they let her die, when they're precious? Code demands you stand and watch. What power do you serve that cannot protect what you love?" He rose from meditation, a Jedi still, but not whole. A fracture had become a wound, and the wound now wept not blood, but wrath. All things once hidden will rot, and rot breeds desperation, and desperation breeds choice. Soon that choice will come, and with it, the end of one name, and the birth of another. Chapter 5. The serpents offer not all knowledge is given in warning. Some is offered as a gift. He came not in robes of night, nor shrouded in flame. He came with a smile, with hands folded in peace, with the weight of a dying republic upon his shoulders, and the cure to all fear behind his eyes. Chancellor Palpatine, the shepherd, the guardian, the whisperer, and beneath that mask, a serpent long fed on rot. Anakin stood before him, not as warrior, but as man, a man haunted. He did not seek war. He did not seek glory. He sought only life, not his own. Hers Padme, the dreams had returned. He saw her death as if it had already happened. He tasted it in his breath, felt it in the seams of the Force, cracking. Breaking dots she would die, and the Jedi would do nothing. Palpatine did not tempt. he confided. The Jedi do not understand all aspects of the Force. There are powers, forgotten, buried, even forbidden. The Sith do not fear them. The Sith have touched them. Anakin did not speak. Not at first, for this was not the voice in dreams. This was a man, real, warm, close, and yet he spoke the same words. Did you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis, the Wise, a story, a legend, a curse disguised as a parable? Anakin listened. The galaxy narrowed. He could use the Force to influence the midi-chlorians to create life, to prevent death. And there it was, the name of his hunger, spoken aloud, offered, not stolen. The serpent's mouth opened, and within it lay hope. It was not darkness that stirred in Anakin. Not yet, it was doubt. Doubt not in the Chancellor, but in the Jedi. Why do they not teach us this? Why do they hide such knowledge? He remembered Mace's cold gaze, the Council's silence, the endless war, the dreams unheeded. If they would not save Padmé, would he? Palpatine placed no hand upon his shoulder. He did not command. He simply said, "You must embrace a larger view of the Force." And in that moment, the light began to flicker, for Anakin had once trusted the Jedi blindly. But now he saw them, their codes, their fears, their limitations. What is the point of power if it cannot protect what matters? What is the point of truth if it comes only with loss? In the silence of the temple, Anakin began to think, not as Jedi, but as he once was, a slave, desperate, trapped between chains and death. Back then, he had dreamed of freedom. Now, he dreamed only of control. He sat beside Padmé and felt the child within her stir. 2 heartbeats, 3 with his own. And yet he felt none of them would last. He could no longer trust time, nor prophecy, nor peace, only choice. Still, he did not confess. To her, to Obi-Wan, to the Council, the voice told him they would not understand, that they would call it treason, that they would let her die, to teach him a lesson about attachment, a lesson paid in flesh. When next Palpatine spoke, he no longer whispered as Chancellor. He unveiled himself with no fear, no mask. "I am the one you seek. I am the Sith." But he did not strike. He did not laugh. He did not threaten. He waited, for Anakin was not a man to be pushed. He was a man who had already begun to reach. No blade was drawn. No duel commenced. Only a question drenched in velvet. "Venom, will you learn what they have forbidden?" Anakin stood on the precipice. One step, and all would change. He turned away, for now, he told the Council. He obeyed the order, but his voice shook, his certainty cracked, and they saw it. Mace, Yoda, OBI-1, the fear in his eyes. But none of them embraced him. They gave him missions. They gave him doubt. They gave him distance. And the serpent waited. For fall is not a plummet. Fall is not a scream. Fall is a kneel. And Anakin Skywalker, for all his strength, for all his fire, was beginning to bend soon. The lie of light will shatter, and the truth of power will whisper its final name. But not yet, no, first, he must choose, and the serpent will wait, as it always has. Chapter 6. The temple bleeds. There are moments in time when the Force forgets to breathe. This was one. He stood before the serpent, before the dark made flesh, before the ancient wound the Jedi could never name. Palpatine, not Chancellor, not friend, not savior, master. And Anakin knelt, not with pride, not with joy, but with conviction. What is thy will, my master? And thus was the blade named Darth Vader. The name did not echo. It consumed a black flame without smoke, a silence deeper than vacuum, a vow written in death. The temple stood tall beneath the Coruscant sky, unaware. Jedi walked its halls, not saints, but seekers, not soldiers, but sages. And within those sacred walls, children laughed. They practiced with wooden sabers. They bowed to statues of old. They believed still that light would always answer. But light was now blind. The chosen one had become its UNMAKING. He returned, not as guardian, but as executioner. He entered through the gates unopposed. His robe was still Jedi, but his eyes no longer dreamed. They burned. The clones followed him. No longer soldiers of freedom now, hounds of empire. Order 66 had been spoken. The great betrayal was loosed upon the galaxy, and with it, the death of the old song. He walked through the temple, past the fountains, past the statues, past the echoes of those who once called him brother, and in every chamber he became something less, and something more. The masters fought. They fell, not for lack of power, but because the blade that slew them once bore the name Skywalker. They hesitated. He did not, but it was not the warriors that marked the fall. It was the children. They gathered around him, confused, afraid. Their eyes still trusted. Master Skywalker, there are too many of them. And then, only silence. The temple bled. Stone cracked. Holocrons wept sparks. Statues wept dust. And the light, the ancient light that had once spoken from every corner, went still. He left no one. He spared nothing. The sabers that once danced in harmony now lay shattered. The archives burned. The Force cried out through every splintered kyber crystal. But Vader did not hear. He had traded his soul for a promise, and in that promise there was no room for mercy. Outside the sky, Tor Palpatine declared a new empire, with words drenched in false mourning, with thunder not from the heavens, but from applause. The Republic died, not with resistance, but with relief. The galaxy, weary of war, welcomed its own noose. Padme watched from afar, her hand on her womb, her heart slowly breaking. She felt the wound in the Force, but could not name it. She saw the temple smoke, but could not believe. Obi-Wan returned too late. He saw the bodies. He saw the children. He saw the archive doors torn from their hinges, and he saw the surveillance. Anakin, not dead, not lost, but changed. Yoda wept in silence, not with tears, with knowing. The war had never been against the separatists. It had always been against the rot within. And now, that rot had a name. Elsewhere, systems burned. Jedi were hunted. Order 66 echoed like a curse through every star. Brothers turned on brothers. Knights became prey. And in the chaos, Vader flew. To Mustafa, his next task. To finish what remained. The separatist leaders waited in luxury, dreaming of reward. Unaware that their purpose had ended, he slaughtered them without pause. One by one, room by room, don't know hate. No fury, only function. The blade that once defended freedom now silenced pleas. And Mustafa's rivers of fire reflected the birth of a galaxy's nightmare. He contacted his master. He received his praise. The chains were now complete, not iron, but choice, but far above. In a place the Sith could not reach. The Force did not die. It curled, it twisted, It prepared for balance, though shattered, was not yet undone. A child still stirred within the womb of hope, and a twin, yet unseen, would one day split the darkness in two. The chosen one did not bring balance, he shattered the scale. Chapter 7. Of cinders and sand some flames do not warm. They do not cleanse, they only take. The stars looked away as Mustafar screamed. It was here that gods wept in silence. Not for the Jedi, not for the Sith, but for love. That ancient heresy Padam came with hope in her eyes. But the galaxy had already buried it. She saw him not as Vader, but still as Anakin, still her husband, still the father of her unborn children. But the man she loved was already ash. I did it for you. I can protect you. I can save you. His voice trembled, not with guilt, but with hunger. We don't have to hide anymore. We can rule the galaxy, Pab. She stepped back. Not in fear, but in disbelief. Anakin, you're breaking my heart. The words struck him, not as wounds, but as threats. For the dark does not hear love. It hears only loss. And in that moment, something inside him screamed. Not from pain, but from terror. He saw her leaving him. He saw her choosing Obi-Wan. He saw her slipping beyond his control, and fear. The oldest poison tightened his hand. She gasped, air fled her lungs. The twins kicked once, and then were still. Vader did not hear it, did not feel it, only when her body dropped like silence did he blink. But it was already done. The ship descended. Obi-Wan emerged too late to save her, just in time to face him. Not Skywalker, not the boy he raised, only ruin. They fought. But this was not battle. This was prophecy made. War Saber met Saber. Stone split. Fire sang, and above the inferno the Force wept through two blades, once aligned, now divided. You were the chosen one. You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. The scream held no hate. Only grief. Obi-Wan had not come to win. He had come to understand, but there was no Anakin left to answer. Only Vader, half machine, half prophecy, all fury. But fate is cruel, and it chose a shore of black sand to end the lie. Obi-Wan struck a single arc, a final severance, and the limbs of the dark fell like broken commandments. Vader screamed, not with voice, but with existence. Fire found him, welcomed him, claimed him. The river of flame licked his skin, melted his flesh, burned away the man, until only the machine to be remained. Obi-Wan turned away. You were my brother, Anakin. I loved you. He did not strike the final blow. He left it to the fire, and the Force, always watching, always silent. Let it happen elsewhere. Padmam gave birth, not in hope, not in joy, but in the shadow of death. Luke, Leia, light split in two to survive what the galaxy could not. With her last breath, she whispered, "There's still good in him." But none heard, except the Force, and the Force did not answer. The Empire grew. Palpatine arrived and found his apprentice not victorious, but broken, charred, unmoving, unseeing, yet alive, and life, even ruined, could be molded. Machines rebuilt him, screws, circuits, steel, each part added not to heal, but to bind. The scream he gave as the mask sealed upon his face was not human. It was the cry of a galaxy's grave, and when he rose, it was not as Skywalker. It was not as Jedi. It was not even as man. It was as symbol. the blade that walks, the will of empire, the punishment of hope, Darth Vader. He asked only one question: where is Padme? And the serpent smiled. It seems, in your anger you killed her, a lie half true, whole enough to poison eternity. Vader staggered, the force around him screamed, the machines at his side shattered. The room trembled, but he did not fall, for there was no one left to catch him. A shell, now myth made iron, a wound sealed in black. The man is gone, the machine remembers, but memory, when sealed in fire, does not fade, it festers. Chapter 8. The Iron Throne of Silence. Silence is not peace. It is the grave of questions, and he is its king. There was no coronation, no crown, no song, only blackened breath and a mask that does not weep. He rose not to applause, but to command. The galaxy did not know his name, but it would learn to fear his shape. He served, not beside the throne, but beneath it, not as heir, but as instrument. Vader the blade in the Emperor's shadow, the hunter of the vanished light, the hand that grips until all breaks. Planets once loud with defiance fell to silence. He came not with legions, he came alone. Ships darkened, cities bent. Hope fled before the hiss of his breath. He did not speak unless to condemn. He did not kill unless to punish. And where he passed, stories died. The Jedi scattered, hunted. Dying became myths in their own lifetimes. Some ran to the outer rim, some buried their names. Some clung to Force echoes. Like driftwood, none survived, not when he came. The temple's ghosts whispered of a shadow dressed in their past, a creature with a saber like a wound and a presence like drowning. They called him the Morning Star, but he mourned nothing, not anymore. His armor was not just prison, it was ritual. Every hiss of its lungs, every ache in its cybernetic limb, a vow renewed. You chose this, you cannot return. You were never meant to be whole. And beneath it all, in the hollows of that unlit cathedral of flesh and steel, he dreamed, still, of fire, of sand, of her the machine never forgot. When the galaxy bowed, he saw only Tatooine. He heard only her last breath. He felt only the heat, not of battle, but of loss. He visited no grave. There was none. He spoke no name. There was none who would hear it. The Emperor praised him, and withheld, taught him, and mocked him, used him, and feared him. For even a master knows, a blade too sharp eventually turns. The dark side bloomed in secrecy, in rituals forgotten, in tombs unsealed, in holocrons that whispered of ancient tyrants. Vader walked those forgotten places, alone, among the bones of Sith lords long dead. He listened, not for wisdom, but for proof that they too were once broken. And he learned, even in shadow, there is a hierarchy of pain. He spoke rarely. When he did, it was to deliver judgment to governors who stole, to admirals who failed, to apprentices who reached too high. The Force did not speak through him. He was what spoke against it. Yet, something within stirred, not rebellion, not light, but friction. For even iron can rust, and memory does not sleep. A name forgotten rose in silence. Ahsoka, once his student, once his kin. Her name, like Pad MS, was one he buried, yet it rose, unbidden, and with it doubt. What if the past had not died? What if it waited? He crushed the thought, as he crushed all weakness. But the Force is not clean. it remembers, it plants seeds in ruin, and from the soil of rage something else began to grow. Not redemption, not yet, but friction. The first splinter. In the throne of silence, still he marched, still he obeyed. But the cracks were there. Even if the galaxy could not see them, Palpatine did, and in secret, he smiled. For a puppet must believe it has strings, and so Vader ruled the vacuum with blade, with breath, with fire, but deep within the mask, where no light reached, a shadow trembled. Chapter 9. The shadow without name. There are shadows which cast no shape, because they were never meant to end. The purge continued, as it always had, as it always would. The Jedi hunted and fled into cracks, little more than echoes pretending to be men. But even echoes leave trails, and Vader followed. He became myth, he became plague. He became the thing Jedi whispered of before they closed their eyes for the last time. Not all fought, some begged, some prayed. He listened to neither. Only the sound of ignition, only the final breath, only the knowing that no one was watching but him. The dark side bloomed behind him like a wound that refused to scab, and the more he killed, the more it fed. The galaxy was not cleansed, it was devoured, but one did not die. A child, too young to speak the code, too small to hold a saber, spared. Not by mercy, but by distance. Born beneath a ruined enclave, smuggled out by a dying knight whose name the records do not keep. A seed, lost in the dirt of the outer rim, forgotten by all except the Force, and the Force does not forget. Vader did not see the child, but he felt absence, not failure, a missing, an emptiness in his hunt. A voice he did not hear, and for a blade like him, there is no worse torment than silence. The child fled, and in the wake of that fleeing, a whisper returned, not in dream, not in vision, but in static. His ship, the Executor, cruel and vast, came alive one night with a sound that should not be, a soft crackle, a breath, a syllable, and then, Anakin. He did not move, but the metal around him groaned. The static returned. I know there is good in you. No one else heard it. No recording confirmed it. No device claimed responsibility, but it spoke as if she had never left, as if the tomb he walked in was hers. He tore the console apart. Wires hissed. Sparks spat. But the voice had already fled, or had returned to where it always waited inside. He visited her grave again, not one of stone, but of memory. He walked the chambers of Naboo's shadow, a place untouched by empire, where Padme once stood, wrapped in light he no longer remembered. The halls whispered her name. The silence pressed her shape into the walls. He touched nothing. He stayed for hours. And when he left, the air had grown colder. He told no one. He returned to war, but something followed him back. The child he had failed to see lived somewhere. The Force trembled with it, a rhythm unending, a pulse just beneath the veil, not prophecy, not vision, but memory clawing through time, as if fate itself had made a mistake and now sought correction. He looked to the stars, saw 1,000,000 points of light, and for the first time since Mustafar, he wondered, had something been spared from the fire? The Emperor noticed. He said nothing, but sent more inquisitors, more spies, more blades, to distract, to consume, to occupy. The mind that should not think, but the cracks in the mask widened, not in steel, but in self, He began to watch instead of act. He began to linger where he once struck, and in dreams, she returned again, no longer weeping, no longer afraid, only waiting. And behind her voice, another whisper, one not yet born, one who remembers without ever having seen. Not all ghosts are hunted, some are inherited. A shadow without name grows, a future still hidden, but no longer silent. The dark side still holds him, but even the dark cannot swallow what it cannot find. And far away, in a quiet place beyond maps, a boy looks to twin suns and wonders why he feels so watched. Chapter 10. Children of the hidden flame from one wound. Two flames, each a reflection, each a ruin waiting to burn. It begins not with a cry, but with silence. A silence so profound that the stars seem to turn their faces. For in the wake of Padme's death, as the galaxy knelt to shadow, two were born, not one, two, twins, split by prophecy, hidden by fear, kept apart by those who still believed that destiny could be rewritten. If buried deep enough, Leah, firstborn, wreathed not in innocence, but in duty, crowned not with stars, but with lies, placed in the care of royalty, adopted by Alderon's throne, she became a flame hidden beneath silk. She would grow fierce, she would grow proud, a leader forged in politics and poison, and the dark wood, the ember left in sand, carried to Tatooine the grave of his father's joy, the birthplace of his grief, raised by kin, but never told the truth. He would gaze at the sky and ache for something, unnamed, not adventure, not greatness, but return. They were not raised as Jedi. They were not told of sabers, or force, or fate. They were made to live in ignorance, for the galaxy, now under iron law, could not endure more prophecy, and those who remembered had already paid in blood. Yoda, exiled to a swamp that swallowed time, Kenobi living in dust, a ghost within his own skin. They watched, they waited, not as saviors, but as sentinels for a light long thought extinguished. They knew what Vader did not, that the prophecy still breathed, that in the twins balance remained possible, but only through fire. The Force stirred no longer in fury, but in rhythm. It began to pull, to twist, to gather the broken threads of fate, like a weaver haunted by its own tapestry. And in that stillness, the Sith grew uneasy. Palpatine, ancient and knowing, felt the tremor. He did not see the children, but he felt the shape of coming things, a divergence, a fork in time, not now, but soon, and soon is all fear needs. He whispered to Vader, tighter chains, more surveillance, more cruelty masked as order. He knew that even a blade must dull, if not kept sharp through blood. So he fed Vader war, fed him failure, fed him ghosts, anything to keep him from looking up to the stars, where his children now breathed. But the Force is not blind, and prophecy is not a path. It is a pattern. It finds blood, it finds echo, it repeats. Two were born from one love, from one fall. They are not saviors. They are not redeemers. They are consequences, living remainders of a choice made in fire Padme's breath, passed into them. Her courage, her stubborn mercy, and something else, something Vader could not name, because he had forgotten it. Hope, as they grow, one in court, one in sand. The galaxy grows restless. Rebellions whisper, stormtroopers crack down. The Empire bleeds its people dry to preserve a lie forged in fire. And still, the prophecy waits, buried. Breathing, the Jedi believed they could hide destiny. They could not. The Force remembers, and what was sundered will seek reunion, but not gently, not without cost. Vader does not know, but already he feels the tremor, the ache, the wrongness behind his mask. He dreams not of Padam now, but of children he never met, and in the deepest part of himself, the part untouched by metal, he wonders, what if the dream is not a lie? What if the fire continues elsewhere? He says nothing. The Emperor sees nothing, but fate moves to flames, hidden, growing. One will rise to lead, the other to redeem, and both will walk toward him, unknowing, unafraid. A broken line may yet mend, but not without blood. Chapter 11. The boy and the saber. The child reaches for the past, and the past bleeds into his hand. Tatooine again. Always. A world of sand and suns, of graves and silence. It births no kings, it buries them, and yet, from its womb of ash, another steps forward. Luke, the son unknowing. The echo, UNCHOS. He walks beneath the same suns that watched his father fall. He does not know the stories. He does not know the war, only dreams and ache. He is a boy, but not simple. There is a hunger in him that no water quenches. A yearning not for glory, but for something forgotten, not fame, but origin and fate, as it always does, answers in death. A message hidden in a droid. A plea long delayed. A girl in white speaks from a flickering past, calling not for Luke, but for OBI-1 and the old ghost who lives, as Ben answers, Kenobi. Withered, wounded, waiting, he had buried his saber in sand, buried his name, buried Anakin, but the Force unearths what the soul cannot. He shows Luke the relic, a cylinder of metal, scarred by time, silent in its truth. This belonged to your father, not a lie, not a truth, only a doorway. Luke touches it, and time cracks. The saber remembers. It remembers Geonosis and Mustafar, and children who did not scream long enough. It remembers hands, both of healing and of ruin. It remembers the moment light turned on itself, and now it rests in new hands. The weapon does not choose, but the Force stirs. It trembles like wind before a storm. And somewhere, far from Tatooine's dust and heat, Vader stops. There is no alarm, no transmission, only a shadow where there was once silence, a void that hums. And in that moment he knows something has awakened, something old, something shaped like regret. He does not know the boy, but he feels the blood, a ripple, a wound reopening. He says nothing, but in his chamber, the back to cold, the steel tight around him, he whispers, Kenobi. Obi-Wan speaks to Luke now, not as warrior, not as master, but as confessor. He tells the boy what the boy can bear. A Jedi, a war, a fall. He hides the name Vader behind fire and silence. Not yet, not yet. Let him walk before he burns. Luke accepts the saber, not as a knight, not as a son, but as a question. He does not yet know what it means to carry the weight of myth, but the galaxy watches, and destiny sharpens its teeth. Together they leave, not as soldiers, but as ashes disturbed. The rebellion stirs, Leia still imprisoned, and the Force, it breathes between them. Luke sees stars for the first time, not as dreams, but as roads. He does not feel the dark side yet. He does not feel the truth beneath his feet. But already the path is carved. The son walks where the father fell. The saber has returned. The blade that ended one age now begins another. Its light is not pure. Its light is haunted, and those who follow it will follow it into fire. The galaxy will call him hero, but the Force knows better. It does not crown champions. It tests them, and should they fail, the saber will still hunger. It has drunk of Skywalker blood once. It will do so again. Chapter 12. Empire's Hand. Father's shadow he who wears. The mask forgets the face beneath it, but the face does not forget. The Death Star, not a fortress, not a weapon, a monument to fear, to silence, to the shape of a galaxy held in one breath, and within its halls a shadow stirs. Not Palpatine, no. Vader, the hand of the Empire, the blade that walks, the father who does not know he is one, yet the Force knows. It always has. Luke arrives. Still a boy, still foolish, but no longer blind. The stars he once chased now burn around him. Rebellion, purpose, prophecy, unspoken but near. He steps through steel corridors, haunted by echoes he cannot name, and the saber, his inheritance, calls to war. Leia is freed. The message answered. The spark kindled, and with her escape, the rebellion breathes again. But every gain must be paid for in loss, and so fate returns to the place it always does. Obi-1, the master, the exile, the one who could not save. He walks the Death Star as if returning to a graveyard. He has known this moment since the fire of Mustafar. He has seen its shape, in dreams too sharp to forget, and when he meets Vader, there is no surprise, only silence. Saber meets saber, blue against red, memory against ruin. There is no hatred in Obi-Wan, only sorrow. Vader too speaks not with rage, but with need, a need to end what once named him, Anakin, when I left you. I was but the learner, now I am the master. Words spoken like ritual, as if to prove he no longer bleeds. But Kenobi does not fight to win. He fights to close the circle, and then he stops. He sees Luke watching. The boy, the son he knows what must be given for the future to ignite. He raises his saber, but not to strike. And in that instant, Vader strikes first. There is no scream, no final curse, only the robe collapsing, and the saber falling without weight. Obi-1 becomes more, not gone, not destroyed, but dispersed into the Force. Luke cries out, not in battle, but in loss. The boy becomes a witness to death, to sacrifice, to truth unnamed. They flee, falcon through stars, rebels to their fleet, but something follows. Not Vader, not troopers, the wound. The saber still rests in Luke's hand, still hums, but it feels different now. He has seen what it can end, and he wonders what it began. Vader stands alone, Obi-Wan's robe at his feet. He should feel triumph. Instead, he feels empty. Something has passed him. Something has left he cannot reach. The last tie to Anakin has vanished, or so he believes. But Obi-Wan is not gone. He speaks, through wind, through stillness, through the Force. Run, Luke, run. A whisper, a beginning. For now, the war begins in earnest. The rebellion celebrates escape, but it does not know what it has truly lit. A conflict deeper than blasters, older than empire, the Son has seen death. He has wielded the Father's blade, and the Father has seen him, not as soldier, not as prisoner, but as something else, something familiar. The Force shivers. The stars realign. What was broken moves again, not healed, but alive. The saber passes hands, but the wound remains. One master falls, another rises, but the mask does not weep, and the boy does not yet know what he has inherited. Soon he will, and the galaxy will burn for it. Chapter 13. Visions on the Ice. Beware the places where breath vanishes, for there the Force does not echo, it listens. Hoth, the world of white silence, a tomb made living, a heartbeat beneath ice. The rebellion hides here, a flicker of heat against the Empire's endless frost. Luke walks its caverns, not a soldier, but a seeker. He has seen death. He has touched a saber's truth. Now he longs for meaning. But Hoth is not generous. It answers in fangs and cold, in wounds torn by beast and storm. Luke bleeds. He survives, barely, and in the grip of death, Obi-Wan returns, not in flesh, but in light. Go to the Dagobah system. The voice is wind. The wind is truth. There. You will learn from Yoda, the Jedi Master who instructed me. A name older than rebellion. A name shaped in Ashdod. The snows fall. The Empire comes. The boy escapes. But now, his road bends inward, into the swamp, into the forgotten. Dagobah. It is not a world. It is a wound, a scar on the Force, thick with rot and life. Here, Luke finds no temple, no monument, only Yoda small, twisted, still. The Master speaks not in sermons, but in riddles, not in power, but in patience. Luke resists. He is flame, not stone, but Yoda teaches, wars not make one great. You must unlearn what you have learned. The lessons fall like rain, soaking, softening, sinking in, and then the cave, a hollow in the earth, but not a place. It is the Force, coiled like a serpent beneath root and mud. Yoda does not forbid him. He only warns, only what you take with you. Luke enters. The darkness welcomes him, and in it, Vader, towering, silent, waiting. A duel, quick, crude, saber against saber. Flashes of red and blue until Luke strikes. The head falls. The mask shatters, and beneath it, Luke's face. He screams. But no sound escapes. Only understanding. Only dread. The Force speaks here, not in prophecy, but in mirror. He sees not what will be. He sees what already is. The seed is within him. The shadow beneath the light. The echo of Vader's fall whispers. Inside his pulse, it is not destiny, it is possibility. Elsewhere, in chambers high above loyal stars, the Emperor stirs, Palpatine rot wearing robes. He peers through currents unseen. He sees the boy. The son of Skywalker must not become a Jedi. He feels threat, real, rooted, rising not just from Luke's saber, but from change. The boy may break the cycle, or crown it in blood. Vader too begins to see. He does not yet know the boy's name, but he knows the feel, the saber, the gaze, the fire. He feels the boy through space, not as prey, but as possibility. He will join us, or die. Not a command, a hope, a longing on Dagobah. Luke trains, he lifts stones. He listens, but always the shadow is near. The cave, the vision, the mask. He asks about Vader, about the dark side. Yoda recoils, but cannot lie. Once you start down the dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. A warning, but warnings, like masks, hide truth. For not all fathers sire in flesh. Some sire in silence, in war, in exile. Vader has already shaped the boy, and the boy will shape him. The cave does not lie. It only reveals, and what it revealed to Luke was not Vader, it was himself. Chapter 14. I am your father, not. All wounds bleed. Some whisper, Bespin, the city in the clouds, hung not by architecture, but by illusion. A place above storms. A world that floats only because it forgets its foundation, much like the Jedi once did, and into this skyward mirage walks the sun. Luke Skywalker, not a Jedi, not a boy, something between. A blade still cooling from the forge, he is drawn here. Not by war, but by visions. Han Solo, Leia, the Wookiee, all in chains. He sees them suffering, and like his father before him, he moves to save what he cannot lose. But prophecy does not bend to love, it devours it. He arrives, he walks halls, lit in amber and steel, a trap, but not one of blaster or prison. This is a summit, a place chosen long ago, where truths must be torn free from the flesh, and there, waiting in shadow, Vader, still, patient, not as hunter, but as architect. He has prepared this meeting like one prepares an altar for sacrifice. Their sabers ignite blue and red, sky and wound. They do not speak. Not yet, only blades talk first, and their song is harsh. Luke is fast, furious hope, made, flesh, but he is not ready. Each clash shakes him. Each blow reveals the distance between legend and truth. He is not confronting a man, he is confronting a monument. The jewel shatters stone, shakes platforms, cuts steam from metal veins, but Luke's strength wanes. The hunt becomes a coronation, and then the blade it severs, hand from wrist, saber from sky. Luke screams, not for pain, but for what is lost. The saber, his father's saber, falls into the void, and so does he, clinging to metal and breath. He dangles over the abyss. Blood drips, the wind howls, all things converge, and then Vader speaks. Obi-Wan never told you what happened to your father. The voice does not tremble. It echoes with finality. Luke stares, eyes wide, mind narrowing to a single thread of hope. He told me enough. He told me you killed him. A silence. Then no. I am your father. And the galaxy fractures, not with war, not with death, but with truth. A truth so vast, so sacredly wrong, that it reorders Luke's soul. He screams, not as a son, but as a soul torn from the spine of prophecy. He sees now the saber in his hand was his father's. The face he feared was his blood. The cave's vision was not a warning. It was a map. Vader offers no cruelty, only a hand. Join me. Together we can end this destructive conflict and bring order to the galaxy. A choice, the same one Anakin was once offered. To rule, to control, to stop the ones he loves from falling. But Luke sees deeper. He sees not salvation, only succession. He does not take the hand. He lets go of the platform, of the truth, of the man, and he falls through wind, through cloud, through destiny, rejected, not to die, but to refuse. And in that refusal, something shatters, not just bone, not just plan, but prophecy. The boy breaks the mirror, but shards still cut. Leia finds him. The sister he does not yet know. He is lifted, broken, changed. The rebellion holds its breath, and Vader stares into space. The son has refused him, and yet a connection remains. Not command, not blood alone, something deeper. The Emperor feels it too, and for the first time in long-forgotten years. He is not certain this was the moment. The turn that did not turn, the blade did not corrupt, the hand did not reach, and so the dark does not rejoice, it waits. Chapter 15. The Emperor watches some kings rule with crowns, but the true ones rule with vision. He sits upon a throne not carved by hands, but forged of fear, suspicion, and time. He wears no armor, carries no blade, needs no armies at his side. Only eyes, and he turns them now to the stars. The Emperor, Darth Sidious, Lord of Shadows, Master of Decay, Architect of the galaxy's wound. He watches, not with sight, but with certainty. The Force bends around him, twisting futures like smoke, and in that smoke, he sees a shape. The boy, Skywalker's son, not yet a Jedi, but no longer a child. Sidious sees potential. Yes, but not for redemption. For succession, he will come to me, as his father did. The words are not prophecy. They are invocation, for Sidious does not believe in fate. He builds it. Vader stands behind him, still silent. But the silence has changed. It is no longer peace. It is tension, a wound pulling against its stitch. He hears his master's plan: turn the boy, break the light, birth a new heir. But somewhere, in the deepest, deadest place within him, the father stirs. He speaks little, even less to his Emperor, but the mask cannot hide conflict, for Vader remembers a time when Sidious promised him the same. Together we will find the secret of cheating death. A lie, no secret was given, only chains, and now another Skywalker is to be offered the same poisoned crown. Vader says nothing, but inside the suit, the man once named Anakin screams quietly, not in rage, but in echo. Meanwhile, on Dagobah, the swamp sighs, the trees bow, the shadows still themselves. Yoda, last of the ancient Jedi, lies dying, not in agony, but in completion. Luke kneels beside him. The boy is no longer full of questions, only resolve. But one question remains: is Darth Vader my father? Yoda closes his eyes. Your father he is. Told you, did he? Silence, then truth. Unexpected this is, and unfortunate. Yoda's breath grows thinner, but he gives Luke one final truth. When gone am I, the last of the Jedi will you be. He speaks of another, a sister. There is another Skywalker, and then stillness. The light dims. The swamp does not mourn, for the Force does not grieve. It absorbs. Yoda becomes memory, mist, a ripple across destiny's skin. And Luke, he is now alone. No counsel, no master, no doctrine, only truth, a saber and a father lost to shadow. The rebellion prepares for its final strike. The Death Star lives again, larger, hungrier, a trap. Luke sees it, knows it, and walks into it anyway. He does not go to win, he goes to end. Leia knows, he tells her, she is his sister. She recoils, not in shame, but in sorrow, so much hidden, so much broken. Luke surrenders himself, willingly, calm. He is led in chains, not as prisoner, but as key and waiting for him, behind the veils of the Empire. is the truth of power. The Emperor watches. He sees Luke, and he smiles. A crack in Death's face, teeth that have tasted 1,000 empires. Your journey to the dark side is nearly complete. He goads, he tempts, he opens the gates Anakin once walked through blindly, but Luke is not his father, not yet. He resists, with fire in the eye, but steel in the soul. You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi like my father before me. Vader stands nearby, silent, but his silence shakes. He watches the Emperor attempt to bend the boy. He remembers being the boy, and though he speaks no word, a question now lives within him. Was it always a lie? One master sees the future, the other only endings. Sidious builds, Thrones. Luke seeks freedom. Vader. He stands between crown and fire, between past and possible. The Emperor watches, but so too, now, does the Force. Chapter 16. The battle above Endor. Hope is a blade unsheathed, sharpest in despair. The stars gather above the green world of Endor. Metal eclipses, moonlight. The Death Star, reborn, incomplete in form, perfect in function. A wound upon the void. Rebellion comes, brave, blind, too late. They do not see the noose, not until it pulls. Beneath, among the trees, fur and fire rage. Primitive hands wage sacred war against the weight of empires above. Among stars and steel, 1,000 engines scream their last, and in the center of it all, the throne. Cold, silent, watching. The Emperor waits. His trap has teeth, not ships, not soldiers, but truth twisted to serve. Vader stands by his side, and before them, the boy Skywalker's heir, a candle placed upon an altar of storms. Luke has come not as a warrior, but as a son. He brings no armies, only hope. I feel the conflict within you, Father. He says it not as challenge, but as plea. Vader does not answer. His silence is not stoic, it is shattering. Sidious speaks instead. Each word is venom wrapped in silk. Your faith in your friends is yours. He gestures to the stars, to burning ships, to the illusion of victory. I assure you, it is misplaced. Luke turns away. He watches the battle die, the rebellion breaking, and still he will not strike. I am a Jedi, like my father before me. Sidious laughs, but not with joy, with certainty. So be it. Jedi, the air changes, from promise to punishment, from silence to storm. Lightning, it does not fall. It erupts, not from sky, from hands pale clawed, wrapped in rot and rule. It strikes Luke, not in rage, but in lesson. You will die, like your father. The voice hisses, the light blinds, Luke screams, and Vader watches. His master, his maker, his chain tortures his son, and something in the dark breaks. Not loudly, not with fire, but like ice cracking in spring. A memory Podmes hand on his cheek. A voice, there is good in him. A promise, you are the chosen one. Vader turns, the throne, the master, the lightning. All in line, all one. And Luke, burning, crying, reaching not for help, but for him. Father, please. And in that word, everything returns. Anakin, the child, the dreamer, the Jedi, the broken. He was never gone, only buried, now unearthed by pain. Vader lifts his master. The Emperor shrieks, not in fear, but in disbelief. He is a god. He cannot fall, he cannot be betrayed, but he is lifted, dragged, thrown into fire, into void, into end. The storm ends. The room is silence. The throne is empty. The chains lie broken. But the cost. Vader falls. Smoke curls from his shell. Lightning's echo clings to him. Luke drags him free. But the damage is done. The armor hisses. The breath falters. Let me see you with my own eyes. A face, long buried, is shown. Ravaged, ruined, but human. Anakin Skywalker. Not Jedi, not Sith, just a father. You were right. You were right about me. And then, as stars die and thrones crumble, he is gone, not vanished. Not erased, but fulfilled. Lightning does not ask where it strikes, only whom it burns, and it burned away the shadow, to reveal the man. Chapter 17. The hand that chose what is choice, when destiny binds all things. It is the defiance of one hand, raised against the tide. The boy does not strike. Before him lies the saber, his father's saber, now his own. Red crosses green, flesh crosses machine, and still he refuses. The room is dark, the throne untouched. The Emperor's smile breaks, not in pleasure, in rage. So be it. Jedi, then comes the storm, blue fire, searing veins. A scream looks. The Emperor's fingers curl like talons. From them, agony, pure and unrelenting. It coils through Luke, not to kill, but to teach. This is not anger, it is authority. Sidious punishes because he must, because he owns, and Vader watches. There is no movement, only breath, that hollow rhythmic chain, but within the storm churns. He sees a boy, his son, writhing, hears a scream. Not Luke's Padmes remembers, a lie, a promise of power, to save, to protect, to control, and now the same lie strangles his child. The galaxy narrows, throne, Emperor, lightning, and Luke dying. Father, please, that word again, like a key, turning in a rusted lock. Vader looks to Sidious, he sees not a master, but a leech, a wraith of purpose, feeding on prophecy. Wearing crowns of decay, he looks to Luke and sees not weakness, but faith, not in Jedi, not in prophecy. In him a hand lifts metal, scorched, shaking, not the hand that obeyed, not the hand that killed, the hand that chooses. He lifts, Sidious. The Emperor shrieks, lightning arcs wild, walls burn, machines scream. But the scream that ends it all is not Sidious's, it is Vader's. As lightning devours him, skin melts, circuits rupture, memory fractures. But his grip holds. He falls, not defeated, freed. The Emperor vanishes in a howl of unnatural fire. The dark side recoils, as if one of its own has turned traitor. Luke rises, his pain spent, his hope reborn. He crawls to Vader's side. Smoke hisses from the black armor. The breath machine falters. Each inhale a gasp, each exhale a farewell. You saved me, Luke whispers. But Vader's head turns slowly, no longer the monster, not the mask. Beneath the ruin of Anakin Skywalker, eyes burned by fire, but no longer blind. Tell your sister, you were right. There is no triumph, only stillness. Anakin dies, not in vengeance, not in rage, but in choice. And the dark side mourns its loss, not of power, but of possession. Redemption is never clean. It does not undo, it does not forgive, it costs, and yet, the hand that chose, unmade the chain. Chapter 18. A mask removed, a sky restored. What is balance, if not the silence between scream and song? It is not peace, it is price, and he has paid it. Smoke drifts from the throne room, ash falls like snowfall, no cheers echo, no choirs rise, only breath, slowing, breaking, fading. Luke carries the weight, not the body, the truth. The armor is cold, the black is cracked, the breathing is broken, but within, a man remains. He lays his father down, Darth Vader, Lord of the Sith, and then removes the mask, hiss, steam, flesh, scar, and beneath the machine's shroud, Anakin, not the golden hero of prophecy, not the war-hardened general, not the monster. In myth, a man, burned, weary, hold out his eyes, unseen for decades, meet his sons. There is pain there, but not regret, only relief. Just for once, let me look on you with my own eyes. He sees Luke, not as Jedi, not as enemy, not even as heir. As son, a bond long buried, now restored for but a moment. Luke's hands tremble. He wants to stop the end, but the end has already come. I have to save you. Anakin smiles, small, shattered. You already have. That is all. There is no grand miracle, no healing from the Force, no return, only release. His hand, the one that once strangled galaxies, falls still. His chest, long driven by machine, finds silence, and his eyes close. Anakin Skywalker is dead, and in his death, the Force shifts. Not violently, not with flame, like a pendulum stilled after 1,000 years. The dark recedes, not erased. The light calms, not triumphant. They do not war, they do not consume, they breathe. The balance long promised, long broken, at last settles. The chosen one did not conquer, did not save the galaxy. He simply returned to himself, to the sun, to the truth. Luke burns the armor, but not as pyre for a Sith, as funeral for a man above the trees. The night glows, a world reborn, not cleansed, but changed. The Emperor is gone, the Death Star undone, the Empire shattered, and yet the true victory is unseen. Later, as music stirs and fires crackle, Luke turns, and there, on the edge of vision, 3 shapes, Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Anakin. No armor, no mask, only light. Father and Son for a moment eternal, gaze once more, not in farewell, but in peace. The prophecy ends, but the echo will never fade, for the Force does not forget. It remembers, in dream and myth, in fire and ruin, in the hand that chose. Chapter 19. The tomb of the machine. He is gone, and yet he is not. For what is death to a myth? What is silence to a name spoken in fear? Only the tomb remains, and the echo within it. The fire consumed the flesh. The flames reached for the sky, hungering for atonement, but the armor remained black, bent, broken, hollow. The shell once worn by war, now cooled by ash. Luke left it, not discarded, buried, not beneath stone, but within time. Yet time does not forget, and the galaxy cannot help but remember. Centuries pass in moments, histories fracture. Truth becomes tale, and from tale ritual. There are those who seek the pieces, scavengers, cultists, emperors in disguise. To touch the helm is to hear a whisper, not of words, but of breath. The armor speaks, not aloud, but in the marrow it calls to the broken, to the lost, to the angry. The legacy remains. A blade, reforged, may cut again. A mask replaced may still deceive, but the soul was freed. Only the machine was left behind. Yet in that machine a tomb, not of Anakin, not of Vader, but of the wound inflicted by the Force itself. A scar across destiny, a memory the galaxy refuses to purge, for the Jedi return, as they always do. New robes, new codes, new names, but the shadows behind them stretch long. Children dream of sabers. Governments rise with fear in their throats, and deep in the forgotten places there are those who wait for the breath to return, for the voice to stir, for the tomb to awaken. Nothing that falls stays buried. The armor lies in darkness, but not alone. Artifacts gather, holocrons hum. Eyes that never saw war now crave its echo. They ask, who was Vader? The scholars say, a tyrant, a redeemer, a puppet, a god. The believers say, a saint of flame, demon of stars, the chosen one. The Force says, a fractured truth lies not in their tongues. Truth lives in the silence where the machine once stood. Some touch the armor and hear nothing. Others, they dream not of glory, but of fire, of screams behind breath, of love twisted into ash dot, and some do not wake. For the legacy is not clean. It cannot be wielded without cost. The hand that once chose now lies still, but the choice still echoes. New Jedi Order rises, but not as before. No temple untouched, no code uncracked. They walk in light, but their shadows speak his name, not as idol, not as cursed, as a reminder that even the brightest can fall, that even the fallen can rise, and that every choice leaves a tomb. He was man, then myth, then memory, but memory in the Force never dies. It waits, and all things that fall leave shadows long behind. Chapter 20. The echo beyond death. You have heard the tale, but the tale has not heard you. This is the end, but it is not the last. The Force breathes, not in lungs, not in light, but in memory. It is not kind, not cruel. It does not love. It does not judge. It simply remembers every scream, every betrayal, every hope, every fall etched into its veins like fire into stone. The holocron speaks now with no master, no Sith behind its eye, no Jedi to lock it closed. It is a wound of thought, a whisper carved in kyber and hate, a vessel for what remains. The chosen one's tale has ended, but tales do not die. They become echo dot, and echoes dot 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 wait in the void between. Stars in the cold minds of dying children, in temples cracked by heresy, the echo waits for another dreamer, another fool, another one who believes they understand balance. You seek light, you seek peace, you seek truth. You will find memory. Dot. You remember him, the boy in the dust, the warrior praised, the tyrant crowned, the father unmasked. Each face is a fragment, each name is a lie. The Force does not name, the Force absorbs. What you call Anakin, what you call Vader, was never a man to the Force. He was a fracture, a moment where will shattered fate, a scream that bent time, a soul that burned too hot to vanish. The Force is not light, it is not dark. It is the hunger that remembers both. You think you are safe because his armor lies still, because the empire has crumbled, because his son walked the path of mercy. But myths do not end. They root, they seed, they bloom. The chosen one was a cycle, not a savior. He broke the scale, then fell upon the pieces. And what do shattered scales measure? Nothing. Only weight, the weight of legend, the burden of memory, the echo of what cannot stay buried. There are those who dig, who listen. They will find this voice. They will call it truth. They will build temples on bones and call it prophecy. They will bleed for a name they do not understand. Darth Vader was a mask. Anakin Skywalker was a name. But the Force does not care for either. It remembers the choice, not the outcome, not the redemption, not the end, just the choice. And you who listen, will choose again. Perhaps not now, perhaps not soon, but you will be offered a saber, a path, a vision, a lie, and you will think yourself wiser. You will think, I remember his fate. I will not repeat it. But echoes are not warnings, they are lures. If you fear the dark, do not seek its story. If you chase balance, know it has no center. If you believe in endings, you have not listened. This is the final truth. The Force does not end. The myth does not sleep. The voice does not forget. Only you do. So let this be carved not in stone, but in your marrow. Beware the myth that breathes. It does not end. It only waits.